Hey, reflections and reflectivities, that's something we deal with all the time, and maybe we're not even aware of it. Let's talk about that for just a moment. What's a reflection? Well, a reflection is something that can be good or bad. It helps us or it really hinders us. It really can do a photo in if you're not thoughtful about how you're taking care of your reflections. The other thing is reflectivity. What's reflectivity? Well, to me, it is an object that either bounces, it's reflective, it bounces light into your picture, or maybe it bounces color. Light bounces off something that's got color, pushes that color into your scene. Well, reflections and reflectivity. We're going to tackle all these things, starting with how to handle glass. Here we go. You know, reflections can be good or bad, and I'm always thinking about ways of either using a reflection to help me or thinking about ways to get rid of them if they're hurting me. Windows are a classic example. We've got Erica standing here at the old farmhouse. If I'm straight on at her, whatever's directly across from her is really reflecting badly. I mean, it's tough. It's really tough to see her. But look at how easy this is to fix. I'm going to take 1, 2, 3 steps, and it's completely clear. The window isn't clear, it's dirty. It's an old abandoned farmhouse. But look at this. Super easy. It took 3 steps. It didn't take much at all. And it's as simple as that. Many places you go, I don't care if you're at maybe a public aquarium or you're trying to view something in a museum that's behind glass, just moving around, checking high angle and low angle and side to side, maybe looking at it at different times of day. That's really key. So what's the difference between these two positions, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. When I'm right here, I'm seeing sky, and I'm seeing sky through trees, and it's really distracting. Why is it that I can clean it up right here? Well, because actually, if I'm looking right here, I'm looking at a bunch of really dark trees that are completely silhouetted. Those trees are providing me with a very black background, allowing her to pop out. No reflections at all, just because of the vegetation, right? So this might not work at your house. If you're off to one side, you're going to catch whatever's in the background that's reflecting off the glass. You've got to move and you've got to think your way through it. But it's not that tough if you just put a little effort. You can't always fix your reflections. You can't always do it, but it's sure worth trying. Sure is. I'm always thinking about layering all the time, everywhere I go. And reflections is really a nice place to try that because you're automatically, you know you're going to get wherever the shiny object is, the reflective surface, let's say a window. You already know there's a layer. And whatever's seen in the glass, that's a layer. And maybe if there's something behind the glass, that's a layer. So windows and doorways are a great place to do fairly complicated and fairly sophisticated pictures. And we're going to try one right now that's in the harshest light of day, just the middle of the day, like 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the afternoon, right in the middle of summer. Clear blue sky, nothing soft about this. We're just going to try it. This is the first spot we tried. There's an old dead tree here by this abandoned farmhouse that's going to reflect in the glass. We've got Carly here in the doorway in this beautiful blue dress with a lot of highlights, a lot of sequins, red lipstick, very fair skin. So she's in this old doorway. We're going to try one here and see how this looks. Just a straight picture. All right, it looks fine. My shadow is actually enabling me to block the reflection right around her face and upper body. So I'm in fairly close just to make sure that that's dark enough so that she shines through and there's no distractions there. But I think it could be better. I'm going to back up and show the doorway that she's in. I know that I've got not only Carly, I've got not only this vintage, beautiful antique door, but I'm seeing the world out there, and I've got Esther and Hannah out there in the sun, and I know that even though they're reduced in size and small back there, they're going to show up too. So let's try this. Hannah, move a little bit that way for me so that you're over one shoulder. Okay, there you go. Okay, good. All right, very nice. Okay, so I've got Carly there, and I can see these gals in the background, but let's do another layer. Hannah, come on up here and stand kind of right about there. Maybe turn sideways. And now we're going to have softly lit Carly, softly lit door in the shade. We're going to have a silhouette, of course, a silhouette of Hannah here, and we're going to have Esther in the back. Kind of flare the skirt, get a little bit more color, and let's try this. Let's try this. And I'm going to go horizontal. I'm going to forget about the door for now, and I'm going to go horizontal because I'm just going to look at Carly's eyes and kind of upper by shoulders up on Carly. There we go. Esther, kind of walk around a little bit, would you? Kind of move through the scene, turn around, walk back out. Yeah, go ahead. And come on back in. Very nice. Okay, good, good. I mean, that's nice. It's complicated. The light is uneven, but that's okay. Soft light, silhouette, full light, and all compressed pretty nicely. I've got a 24-70 on here. I'm at about 40 millimeter. Believe it or not, middle of the day, I'm at 2000 ISO. 2000 ISO. Why? Because I want to be at f/22. I want the smallest hole in my lens that I possibly can so that I've got depth of field all the way from her eyes all the way out to Esther there. So 2000 ISO in bright sun. Is that crazy? I could do it, I guess, if I went with a lower ISO, put my camera on a tripod. But you know, she's moving a little bit, and she's moving a little bit, and she's moving a little bit. And I want to be able to move. I want to be able to go with it. And a tripod really kind of locks you down and makes you work a little bit more methodically. And I'm looking for happy accidents here. So, man, I think this looks pretty good, especially for being so unevenly lit. In the film days, film just didn't have the exposure latitude that we have now. You know, we have so much more freedom in terms of going from dark basically to light in a single frame. That's nice too. So anytime you get an opportunity to do something like this, it takes a while. I mean, it took me about a half hour of looking at this before we're rolling right now. It takes a while to figure it out, and sometimes it never comes together, but spots of color, that helps a ton. And having a beautiful old farmhouse and great models. So there you go. I want to talk for a minute about filters. I get asked about filters all the time. What kind of filters do you use? Well, tell you, there's a filter that I use all the time on every shoot I do just about, and it's not that. It's this one. It's clear glass. It's just clear glass. You know, this is a UV filter, so actually it supposedly helps a little bit with haze, but I use a skylight filter all the time. I'm just using the clearest glass I can get to keep the scratches off my lens because I don't really use lens caps. Why? Well, over the years, you know, when I was first starting out, I'd have a lens cap on my lens and I'd see something great. I'd bring the camera up and I'd be blocked. And I'd have to stop and take the lens cap off and shove it in my pocket and come back up, and then the scene was over with. So now I use a lot of just glass filters over the front. I use UV or skylight, either one. I don't notice a whole lot of difference. The rest of these filters are just things I had at home, and this represents maybe a third of the filters I've had over a 30-year career. These are the good ones that aren't all clawed up. There's an 81A, which is a warming filter. We can do that on our cameras now. We just tweak it. We just set the white balance to cloudy day. That gets a little bit of a warm filter. Here's one that's magenta. We used to use this to counterbalance fluorescent light. We'd correct the light back to white, green light back to white using a magenta filter. We don't need to do that much anymore because we've got an automatic white balance or even a fluorescent setting that fixes that. Here's a crazy one called a star filter. You use this at night and it makes things it makes all your lights in a city look like little starbursts. There's lots of different filters that do all sorts of horrible things, actually. There's one that gives you like 6 of somebody if you take a picture of them. This is a graduated neutral density filter. Quite handy, actually. I don't use them a whole lot, but when you really need them, you do. It's just smoked at the top and clear at the bottom. You would hold this up to your lens and get it about where you wanted. If you were trying to shoot into a sunset, let's say, but you wanted to hold the landscape, that's a pretty handy tool. I myself would come back in the morning when the light was right and I wouldn't have to do this, or come back in the evening. A lot of times we use these on scenes that are reversed the way they should be lit, or let's say on a cloudy day when you just want to darken the sky. This filter here, though, that's on my lens right now, is a circular polarizer, and this is the one I really wanted to show you guys. It's great at handling reflections and reflectivity. It's amazing, actually. What it does is, as you spin it, it basically goes from allowing all the light can come in from any direction to reducing it to come in one direction. It basically just reduces the way that light can come into the lens. And it's fantastic for water. It's also fantastic for, let's say, reflections on a car. So I'm going to turn around. I've got Shannon sitting in there. We've got this big dead tree outside her window, and boy, is that a mess. And you can't see anything, but if I turn this, I can see her perfectly. It's like magic. It's quite amazing. Let's try it on the front windshield. Same thing. Can't see her at all. I just see the sky. Oh, all the light bouncing in from the sky. I'm going to turn this polarizing filter, and amazing, amazing. It clears the window up completely, just completely. So we go from a scene that's wrecked by bad reflections to just eliminating them, It's a really, really neat trick, and it's something that comes in quite handy, and I use it once in a while, not too often. It's not very beat up. I must not use it often enough, but you know, in general, I've found that, and filters are very legitimate tools. They're just more tools in your toolbox, but I'm already carrying so much stuff. I've found that over the years, I would rather try to work in the light that works for me rather than trying to correct it with one of these pieces of glass, which I'm gonna break anyway. You know what I mean? So I think filters are a good tool, but you have to decide how much gear you want to take and what are your end goals. What do you want to accomplish? But skylights, man, something clear like this, always keep one of these on the front of my lens, always. So that was kind of fun. Filters are all right. You just have to decide when and where they're appropriate. So let's talk about real reflections now, the ultimate. Mirrors, how do we handle them? They're very tricky, but also really put your mind to the test in terms of what you want to show in the room, what's your depth of field, where's your focus, lots going on. Spend a lifetime just trying to think through this type of reflection. Here we go. Holy cow, is the light miserable. It's near the middle of June, and it is, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 12:30. The light couldn't be any worse. How do we make good pictures in terrible light? All right, well, let's give this a try. I think by making things more interesting, we can always find some good light to use. I mean, I try to discourage people from working in the middle of the day. You'll get sunburned and parched, dehydrated, but let's say that this is the only chance you have to make a picture. All right, we're gonna do a reflection at the wrong time of the day and see how this holds together. We've got our 3 lovely models here. They're in matching blue dresses. And we've got a farmhouse that's going to be reflected in the side view mirror of this old truck. We've got Hannah up close. See, I'm seeing light. It's just not what we'd expect. It's completely backlit. This whole scene is backlit. The grass being backlit really glows green. We've got a little bit of sun coming down on these dresses, and the dresses have sequins up top. It gives us a little sparkle. I think we can make this work. I really do. So first thing, Hannah's closest to this reflection in the mirror. Hannah, go ahead and turn your face up into the sun. Let's get a little bit of highlight. So we're going to see a lot of deep shadows, but we're going to see sun on her, across her chest, on her shoulder, on her face. That's good. The house is kind of secondary now, but it really takes up this reflection right here in the side view mirror, and looks like Esther's good. Okay, Carly, I noticed you flipping your hair earlier where you kind of arched your back, and there was a lot of sun that hit the sparkly, the sequin part of the top. So I'm going to get set up. Here we go. I'm focused back on the house, but I'm at f/22 at 500 ISO. I mean, it's bright out. Carly, go ahead and flip your hair again. Let's see how this works. Okay, here we go. And I used a motor drive just because I know that I'm going to get every stage of her and won't miss it. Let's try it again. I'm at 28 millimeters, f/22, 250th of a second. Okay, Carly, try it again for me. Good. So even though she's backlit, the top of her catches light when she arcs her back and flips her hair out. Now I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. I'm going to zoom in. By zooming in, I can either be close to the mirror and the house is small, I can be back from the mirror and the house gets bigger. We're going to try it one more time. All right, I'm focused on the house. Okay, Carly, try it one more time. Very nice. You know, there's plenty of color in this picture. Actually, for being so backlit, there's plenty of color. Carly's got a little bit of purple in the back of her hair, the blue dresses, the green grass. I think this actually is a pretty good looking shot and very different. It's very different than anything I'd normally shoot. Shoot in the worst light of the day and backlight it and try a reflection. I think it works okay. It's all a grand experiment. That's the lovely thing about photography. I've been doing this since I was 18 years old and I'm 53 now. I learn something every day. It never gets old, never gets tiring. Not all reflections are bad. I know we struggle with that when we're looking at objects that are shiny or glass or whatever, you know, windows from outside. Not all of it's bad. Some of it's very, very good and very, very interesting. I'm in an old farmhouse out here in rural Nebraska. It's very Spartan. It's a good chance to try using mirrors and reflections and just seeing what we can build in terms of layering. It's very fascinating. Kind of tricky to do, but not bad. So we have a corner of this old farmhouse bedroom that this corner is where the light is. I always go to where the light is every time if I can, at least natural light, and that way it's easier. I'm kind of lazy in that respect. We have the sun, late morning sun, hitting the side of this old white farmhouse, and that's acting as a giant reflector and kicking a lot of natural light and brightening this corner up. Good place to have a mirror. And here we go. So Carly's leaning there. She got her hair dyed purple a little while ago. And you know what? It works, gives it a little color. Hannah's back here. She's got a little reflectivity in lipstick. Ellen's holding mirror. And there's Esther way in the back in a mirror as well. So the big thing, the trickiest thing, you guys, is to keep yourself out of it. If you ever try to shoot a curved surface like a stainless steel doorknob or something, or mirrored sunglasses, it's really tricky keeping yourself as the photographer out of the picture. And even with a flat mirror, that's tricky too. So I'm hugging the wall and really just being as skinny as I can and trying this. I'm going to go up to 4000 ISO because I want lots of depth of field. The room's bright. I think I can handhold this. It's 24 millimeters. I think I can handhold this at a 30th of a second. I have the camera turn on aperture priority. I always do. My exposure compensation is right at about 0 because the room's a little bit dark. And I'm showing Carly's shoulder there. I don't really need that. I'm going to come up a little closer, just a little closer. And I've got to get out of the mirror. I've got to remember a few things. I've got to get out of the mirror. And I've got to have Ellen angle that mirror just right so we can see Carly in her mirror as well. So go ahead, Ellen, angle it a little bit more. Tilt it down. Okay, good. Now hold it still. Hold it right there. Here we go. So I've got, Carly, turn your head into the light a little bit more. Good. So I've got, boy, it's slow. 20th of a second. I'm braced into the wall though. F22. 22. Why? Because I want everything in focus that I can. I should use a tripod, but that would kind of get in my way, and I'm braced into the wall pretty good. And I've got a really wide focal length, 24 millimeter. If I was trying to do this with a 100 millimeter lens at a 20th, it'd all be blurry. But I'm going to back up a little bit. A lot of times when people shoot mirror pictures, they show the back of the person looking into the mirror. I personally like to avoid that because the back of the person looking in the mirror isn't as interesting, and it also is usually very out of focus. All the focus is going into the mirror frame. That's where the focus starts, the ornate frame. And really I want Carly's eyes with her purple hair. I want her eyes to be the thing in focus. No blowouts. I can see from the histogram here, we're on the money exposure-wise. So really nice, but kind of complicated. We got 3 mirrors going. The main mirror, the one Ellen's holding, then the one Esther's reflected in the back of the room. 3 mirrors. It's about all I can handle. All right, now let's go out to the rodeo and let's look at reflective items and reflections, reflectivity. It's all going on with rodeo queens. They got a lot of bling. Here we go. Reflectivity can be a lot of things, can't it? It can be really bad, glare on glass, glare on a computer screen. I mean, we fight reflections all the time. But it can also be really a lovely way to illustrate something. Reflectivity, again, is just bringing out color or brilliance in an otherwise pretty dark scene. It works pretty well in black and white sometimes, but in the case of color, it can just really be magical. So the big thing is, remember to have fun. When you think about reflections, you see your world in a whole new different way. It really is a chance to kind of explore light in a way that you don't necessarily normally think of. So think about reflections. Try doing it. Just go out and do one shoot where that's all you do is think about reflectivity. And the fun aspect, well, look at this. Cowgirls in a row. One's not very reflective. Who is it? Right here, right here. Not reflective. Even though she's wearing dark and she's wearing a belt buckle, not that reflective. You better step out. Thank you so much. Okay, so who's the most reflective here? It's pretty obvious to see the Star-Spangled Vest right there. So we're going to start wide. That just jumps. We've got really reflective belt buckles going here, but right in the middle, man, does that jump. It just totally pops off the frame here. We can move in a little closer, and these belts and the belt buckles are super reflective. They're really nice. And what is reflection? We're just basically catching light in the sky and it's kicking back off this really shiny surface. We can do the same thing here, but truly right there, right in the middle, silver with red and blue stars against a flag. It's really nice. Take 1 or 2 steps out for me. Right here, come on out, a little bit more, a little bit more. Everybody just look right here at me. And there we go. Remember, go to where the light is. Even at this time of day when it's getting really dark, you can still work reflections. You can work and work and work. Go to where the light is. Every time go to where the light is. And the light is right here, right now. On an otherwise very drab, overcast dusk at sunset, it's great shooting. Give it a try. You know me, I cannot pass up a good reflection. Mirror sunglasses and a giant American flag? Absolutely. The big trick is keeping myself out of it. Let's see. A lot of depth of field, lots of depth of field. F11, F16, F22. Just trying to fight the curve of those sunglasses and keep as much as I can in focus. Hey, that looks great. You guys want to see? Thanks for posing. That's it. Simple as that. Let's critique the photos we got out at the abandoned farmhouse. You know what's amazing is as the models were getting ready, I walked up into one of the rooms and I literally saw this. Carly, the model who had dyed her hair purple the day before, she was leaning over and I saw a bunch of light kicking in through the room and thought, okay, and there's Ellen in the back holding a second mirror for lipstick for another model. I thought, you know, that's nice. So of course it's nice. I mess with it and I have them turn around and I do a straight portrait to get more into the light. But then the more I thought about it, maybe we want this, maybe. So let's go through this where we've got 3 mirrors. Let's go through and see if any of them work. This is fine, but it looks real cheesy with Esther, the model in the back left, kind of putting on makeup in that back mirror. I mean, it's either a portrait or it's a candid, and that's a hybrid, and I didn't care for it. Same there. Got the makeup brush. She's okay back there, but it just looks too campy. I mean, it looks like a soda pop commercial or something. So here, a little bit better, a little bit more of a smart composition with Esther in the back, and she's got her hand on the wall and she's looking at the camera, and I can still see Carly, the one with the purple hair, in the mirror that Ellen is holding. That's fine, but I'm thinking it needs more interaction. So I move everybody more forward. Esther stays back there. Now I've got 2 models in the mirror that Ellen's holding, and the little pinky up, the little pinky right there on Carly's shoulder. I mean, that helps that scene, I think, helps it tremendously. I could work on this picture all day and not really get it right. I mean, it needs some supplemental light thrown in the background, but that house didn't really have power. And, you know, it's pretty good for what it is, but this is about an hour of trying. And I don't know, no excuses for bad pictures, but there's a lot of ways to do this better. It's hard though. It's hard to stay out of the main mirror, for one. I mean, I'm just like, you can see my shoulder just a little bit there. It's hard because you got to keep yourself out of it. Let's go outside and look at some reflection pictures we started to do in the middle of the day. I started out in black and white. I saw this in the side view mirror of my truck and liked the way that farmhouse fit. Thought, okay, we'll put the models out there. And of course, we must shoot black and white because the sun is high overhead and slightly backlit, and the house is completely in shadow. And I thought, well, maybe we'll push it. This is about going beyond the fundamentals. Let's push it a little bit. Color. Okay, now these are straight out of the camera pretty much, not worked much at all. Yes, they're backlit, but the highlights on the blue dresses and the highlight on the grass make it pop, and it still reads. But I'm still thinking, you know, Carly with that long hair. I saw her do this the first time, flip her hair back, and the way that the sun caught the front of her dress and caught that purple hair, I thought, okay, there's something there. The problem is the model in the foreground is not catching any light at all except on her shoulders. So I had her look up, and Carly flipped her hair again a couple times. She's looking up there. That's almost. Now maybe. So the model in the foreground, her face is up. Good. She's catching the light on the front of her dress. Carly's up. Everything's good. Esther in the background is just kind of holding that in place just to show near far. This is a shoot that I just wanted to abandon and not really even show you. But one of the course producers says, no, you're making really harsh, awful light work. Thinking, okay, all right, because I don't really shoot in this light that often, but you know, there's an old saying, it's not the light, but where you are in it. Maybe with these models out in this position, just getting a little bit of glancing light holds it together. Of the shoots that we did though, in terms of reflection out there at the old farmhouse, I thought this was pretty interesting. We've got Carly in a doorway, and the door is old and ancient, and she's got a reflection going on. There's an old dead pine tree reflected in this door, and the glass is the original wavy glass. You know, the glass is well over 100 years old, and so that creates these optical distortions that I really liked. I came in tight on Carly's face, and it looks a little bit like a painting. The glass is dirty and very wavy and just very shallow depth of field, just on her eyes and lips, and a little bit of reflection in the blue dress. I really liked that. And the rest of the world just goes soft. We know it's a wooded area somewhere. And then I started working in closer and just playing around with how to do it better. I noticed that my shadow is the only thing that allowed me to see her. When I moved in close, fine. If I tried moving back off the porch and my shadow wasn't there to block the reflections around her, you'd lose her. So I had to work in close. Here's what happens when I backed off. I added 2 more models in the background just to hold things and try to give us some depth. You know me, I want to go horizontal, so there we go. But I found that lock in the lower left-hand corner very distracting, to be honest with you. Moved a model up onto the porch for more of a silhouette. Moved her back. Just really played around with this, but the models look completely stiff to me. Really stiff. Love this second reflection there created by the distortive glass. Almost like a ghost on the right. Now they're just talking. A little bit better because it's more relaxed. Now Esther's walking out of frame. That's okay, but I like this. The dress is out. There's not any communication going on between them. That's a problem. They should have been talking or looking. It would have been a lot better. They're just kind of goofing around. Walking again, and I think this might be where I end up. I think it is where I end up. For these reasons. The dead pine tree looks like a hair decoration to me. I like the fact that the glass is so distortive that Esther's dress continues to wave on out. I like the fact that the model in silhouette is slightly out of focus. And I like Carly's look, and I like that we've got more of that blue dress with more reflectivity there. This is a problem. Reflections and reflectivity are really a problem, but it's the highest form of art in a way. If you can really make multiple layers work in a reflection, very hard to do. I'm not saying we got all the way there, but it's a picture that's okay. If I had to do it again, we'd have more interaction with those models. They're just too stiff. I can see them, and I can see that they're not relating to each other, and or I'd have them all looking dead on at the camera. You know, all in all, pretty successful shoot, especially coming at it cold. I'd never tried this there before. And I think next time, had I known that I should have the models look forward and also interact with each other, I think next time the pictures will be better yet.